Well, it's that time of year again. It's time for the Kids for Kids hockey tournament. And every year for the past, this is our 20th tournament, we have given our proceeds to the Boys and Girls Club of Kingston and to Pediatrics in Kingston. And today, we have a delightful and very handsome young man here with us as part of the results of the monies that we've raised over the years from Kids for Kids. We have a lovely family, Rob and Jen McDonald here. This is Abigail over here. And this little fella is Lochlan.
So Lochlan ended up being born 15 weeks early. So it happened where I fell sick and ended up I had a midwife at the time actually, and I had been throwing up and all that stuff, and so I ended up going into the hospital early. This was in April of 2010, and they basically told us that night that I didn't have any fluids, my membranes had ruptured. So then basically they said, usually these kids are born within a 24-hour to 48-hour window, and to kind of prepare ourselves for that. I was 21 weeks pregnant at the time, and so we were completely thrown upside down, and just did a lot of prayers, and lots of people actually were praying for us and sending us positive thoughts, and I ended up staying in the hospital for a week, and then went home actually. And then he stayed in me miraculously for another 4 weeks, and he was born at 25 weeks and a day.
I think one of the greatest things that we have here in Kingston is the fact that our pediatrics in the hospital, we're a regional pediatric center. And we are so blessed and fortunate to be able to have the expertise in the neonatal unit and all of the pediatrics to be able to have had this little miracle happen.
Yeah, no question. I mean, when you walked into the room and into the NICU and saw him there were tubes and machines and so many different things there that were trying to keep him alive. And each morning we would actually go in, and they invited us to come in as the resident doctor would be there with all of the students going through, and they would stop at Lochlan's bed, go through all the things, talk about in a language I don't understand, and then turn and say, do you have any questions? And then, of course, you have so many questions, right? It's one of the hardest things in the beginning was not only just not knowing if he was going to survive, but trying to figure out, like, what does that mean if he does survive? I mean, we had no idea, and family members would be asking us, well, what does that mean for him long term? Is he going to be in a wheelchair? Is he going to, have a mental disability? Is there going to be something else that's going with him? We really had no idea what to expect. It was a social worker, because I was sitting with Jen one night, and I was saying, I wish I could figure out what happens down the road. And it was one of the social workers there who turned to me and said, oh, well, let's just go and ask the doctor and find it specifically. And Dr. Clark was there, and she came in, sat with us, gave us the rundown of basically there's so many different things that could happen with him that it's impossible to give you a list of everything there. And anyway, I was really grateful for the social worker to step up and say, here's, all you have to do is ask the question. And they were really ready to give the answers when you needed them. Mm-hmm. His story, it was so unique, I think, and because after he was born obviously emergency C-section, and he was in such a precarious position in his first 24 hours that we went from such a roller coaster of being told he probably wasn't going to make it to him actually making it. And the doctors, when they were giving you this type of news as a parent, I would never have understood how somebody could say that, but they said it to us basically as, here's the options, the possibilities, what could happen, and you have to prepare yourself for the worst. And I was actually very appreciative of the way they did that. Jen wasn't really awake at the time, but they just came in and very caringly told us what was probably going to happen, and then obviously things changed, and their expertise turned the corner. He wouldn't have made it. He would not have made it if we weren't at Kingston General Hospital with those doctors there.
I think the parents pain more than the children do at times, just watching them go through this. But once again, I have to bring us back to the expertise, to the skills, to the professionalism that we are so blessed to have, and all the resources of the pediatrics at Kingston General Hospital. And people just take for granted, guys, that all of this is paid for by the government, and it's just all there. And that's why we raise this money each and every year for them, because the fact is, it's not. And so we as a community, we really have to buy into the fact that every person in this community eventually will be using that facility.
Neonatal unit. He was the sickest kid in the NICU. I remember that, and I remember the nurses there. There was one nurse in particular we were talking about who had brought in a 4-leaf clover one day. She said, "I was thinking about Lochlan, and I found this 4-leaf clover," and she kept it and gave it to Jennifer, and then had talked about the fact that she really believed in skin contact with the mother and the child to help the child grow.
And energy.
And she was really great at just facilitating that kind of thing. And the day I'll never forget when Jen, called. I wasn't there, and she called and said I got to hold him for the first time. And
Wow.
He had been alive now for how long were you?
He was almost 3 weeks
So 3
before I was
weeks,
able
right?
to hold him.
So our child's alive for 3 weeks, and you're not allowed to touch him.
Wow.
And he's sitting inside that box,
Mhm.
So when she finally got the chance to, it was just such a great moment, and it was the nurses there who were facilitating that, who actually helped make it happen.
So he went from being born at 1 pound and 12 ounces.
Wow.
He was 13 inches long, and we brought him home at about 5 pounds. He could barely fit into the car seat, but he came home on oxygen, so he was on oxygen for a good 3 months. And then back and forth to the hospital, obviously, and a whole roller coaster of things happening. But he's doing super awesome now. He's doing well in school. He's in grade 1. He's had 2 laser eye surgeries for ROP. You don't remember that because you were little. But he's doing awesome.
He's doing tremendously well. Like I said before, when you were wondering about the number of medical issues he could have, there was such a laundry list of things, and the fact that he has come out as healthy as he is a miracle in my eyes. It's just a miracle. This care has taken us from the day he was born, and going into NICU for 3 months, then into the step-down unit, going back and having to go into the new pediatric unit when he had pneumonia and RSV, and then all of the visits to the COPC clinic. And so we've had a chance to meet so many different nurses and doctors throughout the way, but we're just so grateful that we're living in this community, because if we weren't in this community, I don't know, how we would be doing. It'd be so much different because we're fortunate to have this hospital.
Over the years, the kids that have been through neonatal or have been to the pediatrics, and then eventually they come and play in our tournament. And that is such a blessing to us and, of course, to the community. So this is our 20th tournament this year in 2017. And I know that Lochlan is going to play in this tournament eventually because he's got his shirt ready to go. And Abigail is also a hockey player, right?
Yeah.
And do you know that this year is the first year Kids for Kids also is sanctioned by the Ontario Women's Hockey Association. So you can play in our tournament too. How's that?
Cool.
So who do you play for?
I play for the Kingston novice rep team.
So Lochlan, how about you? How are you feeling?
Good.
Are you going to make it to the NHL?
Probably.
Well, that's good. Give me 5 on that one, buddy.